There are 2 temples in Java that shouldn't exist, not because they're impossible, but because nobody remembers who built them. The first is Borobudur, the largest Buddhist monument on earth. 9 platforms, 504 Buddha statues, 2,672 relief panels, 2 million stone blocks, each block carved, transported, fitted without mortar, built around 800 CE, then abandoned, buried under volcanic ash and jungle, forgotten for 800 years until a British administrator stumbled across it in 1814. The second temple is 40 kilometers away, Prambanan, Hindu this time, 47-meter-tall towers, dedicated to Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, intricate stone carvings telling the Ramayana epic, architectural brilliance matching Borobudur, also built around 850 CE, also abandoned, also forgotten. Here's what makes this extraordinary. These aren't small shrines, these are massive temple complexes. Building Borobudur alone would have required thousands of workers, decades of labor, sophisticated engineering, enormous wealth. You don't build monuments like these by accident. You build them when you're powerful, wealthy, confident in your civilization's permanence. So who built them? Ask most people about Indonesian history, they mention Majapahit, the 14th century empire, or Srivijaya, the maritime power. But ask about the civilization that built Borobudur and Prambanan, blank stares. The answer is actually, to Mataram Kingdoms, ancient Mataram in the 8th-10th centuries, then Islamic Mataram centuries later. Different dynasties, same name, same location, both forgotten. Tonight, we investigate the ancient one, the builders, the Buddhist Hindu powerhouse that created Java's greatest architectural achievements, then vanished so completely that even their name needed rediscovering. This is the story of Java's forgotten power. Pause 3 seconds. Let's start with the temples themselves, because they're the only witnesses left. Borobudur sits on a hill in central Java. From the air, its structure is clear. A massive mandala, a 3-dimensional representation of Buddhist cosmology. You're meant to walk it like a spiritual journey. The base represents Kamadat, the realm of desires, earthly existence. The reliefs here show cause and effect, sin and punishment, the consequences of attachment, then you ascend. 5 square platforms, this is the realm of forms, the reliefs change. Buddha's life story, Jotaka tales, Buddhist teachings, you're being educated as you climb. Finally, 3 circular platforms at the top, Arupadhatu, the formless realm. No more relief, just 72 stupas arranged in perfect circles, each containing a Buddha statue. Enlightenment. Stand at the top, and you see the landscape. Volcanoes in every direction, Mount Merapi to the north, Mount Meru northeast, Mount Suming west. The builders chose this location deliberately. Spiritual power and volcanic landscape, now travel. 40 kilometers southeast, Prambanan. Different religion entirely, Hindu but similar ambition. The central temple to Shiva reaches 47 meters, surrounded by 224 smaller temples arranged in perfect geometric patterns. The symbolism is Mount Meru, the cosmic mountain, center of Hindu universe. The reliefs here tell the Ramayana, Rama's quest to rescue Sita, the battle with Ravana. Every panel carved with extraordinary detail. Dancers, demons, gods, humans, all distinct, all expressive. Walk through Prambanan, and you feel wealth, not just in size but in precision. The stone cutting is exact, the architectural engineering is sophisticated, the artistic achievement is world-class. These aren't primitive monuments, these are statements. This is a civilization saying, we are powerful, we are sophisticated, we are eternal, except they weren't eternal. They built these temples, then disappeared. Pause 2 seconds. So who were they? The answer emerges slowly through inscriptions. Stone tablets carved in Old Javanese, scattered across central Java, most discovered in the 19th and 20th centuries, pieced together by archaeologists and linguists. The inscriptions mention kings, dynasties. The Salandra dynasty built Borobudur. Buddhist rulers, possibly from Sumatra originally, established themselves in central Java around 750 CE. Then another dynasty, the Sanjaya Hindu, rivals to the possibly ruling the same territory at different times, or maybe ruling different regions simultaneously. The relationship between these dynasties is unclear. Some scholars think Salandra was Buddhist, Sanjaya Hindu. Others think they The evidence is fragmentary. What's clear? Both dynasties were powerful. Both had resources to build massive temples. Both ruled central Java during the 8th-9th centuries. Together, they're called the Mataram Kingdom, named after the region they controlled, central Java, the Mataram area. But here's what's strange. These weren't isolated building projects. Borobudur and Prambanan are just the most famous. There are dozens of temples from this period, scattered across central Java Mendat, each requiring substantial resources. This suggests wealth. Consistent wealth over generations. You don't build temple after temple unless you have surplus, unless your economy is functioning, unless your government is stable. So what was the source of this wealth? Rice. Central Java in the 8th century was an agricultural powerhouse. Volcanic soil, abundant rainfall, river systems, perfect for wet rice cultivation. The Mataram Kingdoms developed sophisticated irrigation, terraced rice fields, water management systems. They could support large populations, densely settled valleys, towns, cities, economic surplus. That surplus funded temples, but also armies, administrators, artisans, a whole civilization's infrastructure. The inscriptions give us glimpses of this society. Tax records, land grants, legal decisions, religious endowments. We see villages organized around rice production, officials collecting taxes, kings granting land to priests receiving donations, economy and religion intertwined. We see social hierarchy. Kings at top, nobles, priests, merchants, farmers, slaves at bottom. Typical pre-modern structure. We see artistic achievement. The reliefs at Borobudur show daily life. Musicians, dancers, ships, markets, palaces. They weren't just depicting Buddhist stories. They were showing their world. This was a sophisticated civilization, literate, organized, capable of long-term planning, building monuments that would last centuries. And then something happened. Around 920 CE, the center of Javanese power shifts. Suddenly, completely. The capital moves from central Java to East Java, 200 kilometers away. The temples in central Java are abandoned. New temples start being built in the east. Different styles, different inscriptions. Why? The inscriptions from this period are cryptic. They mention a king named Empu Sin. He moves the capital east. The reason isn't stated directly, but there are hints. One inscription mentions the calamity. Another references the destruction of the holy buildings. Something catastrophic happened. The most likely explanation, volcanic eruption. Mount Meru, the volcano overlooking Borobudur, one of the most active volcanoes in Indonesia, erupts regularly, sometimes catastrophically. There's geological evidence of a major eruption around 930 CE, massive pyroclastic flows, volcanic ash lava, covering the region. Imagine you're in central Java when this happens. You see Merapi explode, ash clouds blocking the sun, lava flows destroying villages. Pyroclastic surges, superheated gas and rock racing down the mountain at 700 kilometers per hour, killing everything in their path. The agricultural land, the source of Mataram's wealth, is buried under meters of ash. The irrigation systems are destroyed. The rice fields are gone. The rivers are choked with debris. The capital is uninhabitable. The temples, by luck of location, survive the worst. But the kingdom is broken, so King Empu Sindok does the only logical thing. He moves, takes the surviving population east, establishes a new capital, starts over, and central Java, it's abandoned. The temples remain, but the cities, the palaces, the infrastructure all gone, reclaimed by jungle, forgotten. Pause 3 seconds, but that doesn't fully explain the mystery, because even after the move east, the inscriptions still mention Ma. The kingdom continues, for centuries, under different names, different dynasties, but continuous. Eventually, the eastern Javanese kingdoms are replaced by Ma, the famous 14th century empire. They dominate the inscriptions, dominate historical memory. And somehow, in this transition, the earlier Mataram is lost. The builders of Borobudur become ghosts. Their name survives in regional geography, but their story, forgotten. Even when Islamic Mataram rises in the 16th century, same name, same region, they don't claim continuity with the ancient builders. They don't mention Borobudur or Prambanan. The cultural memory is severed completely. It's as if the volcanic eruption didn't just bury the land. It buried the history. Act 2. The builders, 12 o'clock to 30 minutes and 0 seconds. Let me take you back. Before the eruption, to Mataram, at its peak, around 800 to 850 CE, you're standing in the capital. We don't know its exact name, that's lost, but it existed. Somewhere in the Kedu Plain, surrounded by volcanoes, center of power. The capital isn't like Borobudur. That's a temple, not a city. The capital is wood and thatch, royal palace, government buildings, markets, residences, all organic materials. All decayed centuries ago. Only stone temples survive, but the inscriptions describe it. A city of thousands, king in his palace, nobles in compounds, merchants in markets, farmers in surrounding villages. The king, let's say it's Samarat Sunga, the Salandro ruler, who likely commissioned Borobudur, wakes before dawn. This is tropical Java. Work starts early before heat. He performs morning rituals. Hindu-Buddhist syncretism is common. The king might be Buddhist but respects Hindu gods, or vice versa. Religious boundaries are fluid. Then morning audience. Officials report, villages need irrigation repair, tax collection from last harvest, temple construction status, border tensions with neighboring kingdoms. Yes, there are other kingdoms. Java isn't unified. There's Mataram in the center, but also kingdoms in East Java, in West Java, Sunda, competition, sometimes alliance, sometimes conflict. Mataram's power comes from agricultural surplus. They control the most fertile land, the Kedu and Prambanan plains. Rice production funds everything. The king grants audience to priests, Buddhist monks from Borobudur's monastery, Hindu Brahmins from Prambanan. both seeking royal patronage, donations, land grants. The king balances both religions, political necessity. Then he inspects Borobudur construction. It's been ongoing for decades. Maybe started under his father. Will continue under his son. Multi-generational project. Thousands of workers. Stone cutters, sculptors, engineers, laborers, all coordinated. All fed, all housed. This requires administrative sophistication. The stones come from rivers, andesite, volcanic rock. Abundant in Java, workers cut blocks. Transport them probably by raft, using rivers, then drag them up the hill. Primitive but effective. The sculptors are artists. Trained, skilled, each relief panel is planned, depicting specific Buddhist teachings. The whole temple is a curriculum, a textbook in stone. The engineering is remarkable. No mortar. Stones fitted so precisely, water can't penetrate. Drainage systems so water flows off without damaging structure. Knowledge of weight distribution, of foundation stability, on volcanic soil. This isn't primitive. This is sophisticated. This is a civilization that understands materials, mathematics, engineering, and they're doing it while maintaining an army, defending borders, collecting taxes, administering justice, running a state. Pause 2 seconds. Let's talk about Prambanan. Different dynasty. Sanjaya, not Hindu, not Buddhist, but equally impressive. The relationship between these dynasties is debated. Some inscriptions suggest conflict, others suggest intermarriage. One theory, Salandra, princess marries Sanjaya prince. Dynasties merge, hence why both religions flourish. What's certain, someone commissioned Prambanan around 850 CE, shortly after Borobudur's completion, almost like religious competition. You built the biggest Buddhist monument. We'll build the biggest Hindu complex. Prambanan's construction is even more complex. 47-meter towers, multiple temples, elaborate carvings, all requiring precise engineering. The central Shiva temple has chambers inside, statues of Shiva, Ganesha, sacred spaces within monumental architecture. Reliefs here show incredible artistry. The Ramayana panels are dynamic, figures in motion, emotions visible. This isn't just religious iconography. This is storytelling, drama, art. Walk through Prambanan, and you realize, this civilization valued beauty, valued narrative, valued preserving stories for future generations. They didn't know those future generations would forget who built it. What was daily life like for ordinary people? The inscriptions give hints. Also, the reliefs at Bor carved scenes of markets, ships, houses, musicians, dancers. Most people were farmers. Rice cultivation, labor-intensive, planting, maintaining, harvesting, but also time for festivals, religious ceremonies, music, dance. The reliefs show orchestras, gamelan, drums, gongs, bamboo flutes, similar to modern Javanese music, cultural continuity despite political discontinuity. They show ships, maritime trade, Java connected to wider Southeast Asian networks, Chinese goods, Indian textiles, local spices, international commerce. They show palatial life, nobles and fine textiles, jewelry, attendants, hierarchy, visible in dress and posture, but also elephants, imported, status symbols, military use, showing Mataram's wealth and connections. The society was hierarchical but not isolated. Information flowed, trade happened, cultural exchange with India especially. Buddhism and Hinduism came from India. Script came from India. Architectural styles influenced by India. But Mataram wasn't copying. They were adapting, creating something uniquely Javanese. Borobudur's design has no exact parallel in India. Prambanan is distinctly Indonesian. This is cultural confidence, taking inspiration, creating something original. Let's talk about the religion itself, because this is key to understanding why both Buddhist and Hindu temples exist. In 8th–9th century Java, religious boundaries were fluid. Buddhism and Hinduism coexisted. Sometimes kings might patronize both. Borobudur is Buddhist, Mahayana Buddhism specifically, the kind that spread through maritime routes from India to China, emphasizing compassion. Bodhisattvas, who delay enlightenment to help others. The whole temple is a mandala, a meditation tool. You walk the terraces clockwise, read the relief, gradually ascending from earthly realm to enlightenment. It's experiential education. Prambanan is Hindu Shaivite tradition, worshipping Shiva as supreme deity, but also honoring Vishnu and Brahma, Trinity concept. The temples are cosmic architecture, Mount Meru recreated. But here's what's interesting. The builders of both were same people, same civilization, same era. Religious difference didn't mean political separation. This suggests religious tolerance, or at least kings patronized both religions, probably for political reasons. Buddhists supported sin, Hindus supported sin, wise kings supported both. Also possible, ordinary people practiced both, offered at Buddhist temples for some purposes, Hindu temples for others. Syncretism at ground level. This religious fluidity is important, because when Islam arrives in Java centuries later, it also doesn't completely replace, it layers over, creates Javanese Islam. Unique blend. But I'm getting ahead. Back to Mataram, the kingdom's power peaked around 850 CE. Both temple complexes complete or nearly so. Wealth flowing from rice, trade networks established, relative stability. The inscriptions from this period show routine administration, land grants, tax records, legal disputes, boring stuff, which actually indicates stability. Only stable societies have time for boring paperwork. One inscription mentions a rice field boundary dispute. 2 villages arguing over water rights. The king's official settles it. Apportions irrigation, access fairly, archives the decision. This is functioning government. Rule of law, bureaucracy. Not dramatic, but essential. Another inscription records a donation to a monastery. Wealthy merchant gives land tax-free for supporting monks. King approves and records it. This shows economic vitality. People wealthy enough to make large donations. Also shows cultural values. Giving to religious institutions brings merit, spiritual and social capital. The reliefs at Borobudur show this society's confidence. Detailed ships, showing maritime knowledge. Detailed architecture, showing construction expertise. Detailed court life, showing luxury and sophistication. This is a civilization documenting itself, saying, this is who we are, this is what we value, this is what we've achieved, preserving it in stone, for eternity, except eternity is shorter than they thought. Around 900 CE, something changes. The inscriptions become scarce, fewer stone tablets, fewer records, than a gap. Decades where we have almost nothing. When inscriptions resume, everything is different. The capital is in East Java. The kings have different names. The style of writing has changed. What happened? The geological evidence points to Mount Merapi. Core samples show a major eruption layer, dated to around 900 to 930 CE. Volcanic ash, pyroclastic deposits. Massive eruption. Let me describe what this would have been like. Mount Merapi is a stratovolcano, steep high, built from layers of lava and ash from previous eruptions. It's been erupting for 400,000 years. It erupts regularly. Small eruptions every few years, major ones every century or so, but occasionally, very occasionally, it erupts catastrophically. VE4 or 5, Volcanic Explosivity Index, meaning massive, explosive, devastating. The eruption around 900 to 930 CE appears to have been one of these. Imagine you're in the Kedu Plain, dawn, normal day, then Merapi roars. First, the sound louder than anything you've ever heard, like thunder but continuous, the ground shaking, buildings collapsing, then the ash cloud, rising kilometers into the sky, blocking the sun, day turning to night, then the pyroclastic flows. These are the killers, superheated gas and rock, racing down the volcano at hundreds of kilometers per hour. Temperature, over 700 degrees Celsius, nothing survives. If you're in the path, you're dead. Instantly, no time to run. The flow overtakes everything. If you're farther away, you face different dangers. Ashfall, thick, choking, burying crops. Collapsing roofs, contaminating water. The aftermath is worse. The agricultural land Mataram's wealth source is buried. Meters of ash and debris, rice fields destroyed. Irrigation systems wrecked, no food. Famine. The capital, wherever it was, is either destroyed, directly, or rendered uninhabitable. Infrastructure gone. Government paralyzed. Survivors face a choice. Stay and slowly starve. Or abandon everything. Move, find new land. King Mpu Sindak chooses to move. Takes the remaining population east, away from the volcanoes. Toward the Brantis River Valley, East Java. This isn't a small migration. This is moving an entire civilization's center of gravity. The court, the administration, the army, thousands of people. They leave behind the temples. Too massive to move, too damaged or too dangerous to maintain, but also maybe too spiritually charged. Places of power, but also of catastrophe. Borobudur and Prambanan become ghosts, still standing but empty. No more rituals, no more processions, just stone. And slowly, the jungle returns. Java is tropical. Vegetation grows fast. Within decades, vines are crawling over the carvings, trees are growing from cracks. Within centuries, the temples are hidden, buried under vegetation, forgotten. Pause 2 seconds, but here's what's haunting. The temples survived, the stone endured. But the memory ends single quotes T.Y. Part of it is material culture. Ancient Mataram built in wood, palaces, houses, government buildings, all organic, all decayed. Only stone remains, and stone was reserved for temples. So we remember their religion but forget their politics. Part of it is the migration. When the center moved east, cultural continuity broke. New capital, new focus. Old capital became past, then became forgotten past. Part of it is subsequent history. The eastern Javanese kingdoms Kediri, Singasari, Majapahit become dominant. They write the histories, they define classical Java. They rarely mention ancient Mataram. Either they didn't know or didn't care, and part of it is the later Islamic period. When Islam becomes Java's dominant religion, the Hindu-Buddhist past becomes foreign. Pre-Islamic history is acknowledged but not celebrated. The temples become ruins of a superseded faith, so Mataram slips away, generation by generation, until they're completely forgotten. Fast forward to 1814. British colonial period. Lieutenant Governor Thomas Stamford Raffles hears rumors. Local Javanese mention ruins in the jungle, a hill of 1,000 statues. Raffles sends an engineer, Dutch engineer, actually Herman Cornelius. He finds Borobudur buried under volcanic ash and vegetation but intact. He clears it, reveals the terraces, the reliefs, the stupas, the statues. Realization dawns. This is enormous. This is significant. This is a lost civilization. Prambanan is rediscovered around the same time, also buried, also cleared, also revealing incredible sophistication. The colonial archaeologists, Dutch, British, French, are amazed. They start excavating, documenting, trying to understand who built these. The inscriptions help scholars translate Old Javanese, piece together fragments. Salandras. Mataram names emerge from silence, but it's incomplete. So much is still unknown. Who exactly were the Salandras? Where did they come from? What was their relationship with the Hijaz? How did their government function? What was their capital called? We have the temples. We have fragments of inscriptions. We have educated guesses. But the full story? Lost. Act 4. The legacy 42 minutes and 0 seconds to 50 minutes and 0 seconds today. Borobudur and Prambanan are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Millions of tourists visit annually. Indonesia's most famous monuments, but ask those tourists who built them. Most don't know. They know the temples are old. No, they're Buddhist or Hindu. But the civilization that created them? Forgotten. There's irony in this. Mataram built monuments to last forever. Stone testaments to their power, their faith, their achievement. And the monuments succeeded. They've lasted 1,200 years. But the civilization itself? Forgotten within 500 years. What does this tell us? That monuments outlast memory. That stone survives while stories die. That physical achievements can persist even as cultural memory fails. Borobudur still stands. Still teaches Buddha's path to enlightenment. Still inspires. But it inspires anonymously. The builders receive no credit. Their names are lost. Prambanan still tells the Ramayana, still shows artistic mastery, still but the artists who carved it, unknown, their kingdom, forgotten. This is the tragedy of Mataram. They succeeded in creating permanent monuments, but failed to create permanent memory. Pause 2 seconds. Why does this matter? Because Mataram's story is not unique. It's pattern, a pattern that repeats across history. Civilizations rise. They achieve greatness. They create monuments. They assume permanence. Then something happens. Disaster, conquest, migration, cultural shift, and the memory disappears. Think of the Pew we discussed before. 800 years of civilization, then gone. Even their name forgotten. Think of Angkor, massive temple complexes, then abandoned. Forgotten by the outside world until French colonizers rediscovered them. Think of countless other civilizations, Elmec, Hittite, Harappan, great achievements, then silence, then rediscovery, then fragments of understanding. The monuments remain, but the people who built them, lost. Pause 2 seconds. What's different about Mataram is the timing. This isn't ancient history. 800 to 900 CE is medieval period. Contemporary with Carolingian Empire in Europe, with Tang Dynasty in China, with Abbasid Caliphate in Middle East. We have extensive records from those civilizations. Chronicles, documents, archives. We know their kings, their wars, their daily life in detail. But Mataram? Fragments, inscriptions, archaeological inference. Their history has to be reconstructed from temple stones. Why? Because they built in wood. Because volcanic eruption destroyed infrastructure. Because cultural memory wasn't maintained. Because subsequent kingdoms didn't preserve their history. It's a reminder of historical fragility. How easily knowledge can be lost. How much we don't know about our own past. There's another question worth asking. Could this happen again? Could a modern civilization be forgotten as completely as Mataram? At first it seems impossible. We have so much documentation, digital records, libraries, archives. Surely our history is secure. But consider digital decay. File formats become obsolete. Storage media degrades. What happens in 500 years when current technology is ancient? Will future people be able to read our records? Consider language change. Will they understand English as we write it? Or will it be as foreign as old Javanese is to modern Indonesians? Consider cultural shift. If dominant civilization changes as it did in Java, with Islam's arrival, will the new culture care about preserving the old culture's memory? Mataram assumed permanence, built in stone. But stone alone isn't enough. You need continuity of care, of maintenance, of cultural memory. The temples survived because they were stone, but they were abandoned because the culture that built them was disrupted. They were forgotten because subsequent cultures didn't claim them as heritage. It's only with modern archaeology and modern Indonesian nationalism that claims ancient Javanese heritage that Mataram is being remembered. But it took 800 years, and still, we only know fragments. Pause 3 seconds. Stand at the top of Borobudur today. Same view the builders saw, same volcanoes, same tropical sky, same landscape, but everything else is different. The kingdom is gone. The people are gone. The language is dead. The religion is minority. The culture is transformed. Only the stone remains, and the stone is silent about the hands that carved it. You can read the relief. Follow Buddha's path from earthly attachment to enlightenment. The spiritual teaching survives, but the teachers, unknown, walk through marvel at the Ramayana panels, the artistic achievement, the architectural ambition, but the artists, anonymous. This is what haunts me about They created beauty meant to last forever, and it did, but they didn't. They built temples to teach future generations, and the temples still teach, but the teachers themselves are forgotten. There's a Buddhist concept, impermanence, Anika. Everything changes, everything passes, nothing lasts. The Mataram kings understood this intellectually. They built Borobudur to teach it. The reliefs show the cycle of death and rebirth, the ultimate goal of escaping impermanence through enlightenment. But did they apply it to themselves? Did they consider that their own kingdom was impermanent? That their own names would be forgotten? Probably not, because no one does. We all assume our civilization will last. Our culture will continue. Our names will be remembered. The Mataram kings built in stone because they wanted permanence. They wanted to be remembered. They wanted their achievements to endure, and they succeeded. Partially. The achievement endures. The memory doesn't pause 2 seconds. There's a question that has no answer. What would the Mataram kings think if they could see Borobudur today? Would they be proud that their temple still stands? That millions visit? That it's celebrated as architectural triumph? Or would they be devastated that no one knows their names? That their kingdom is forgotten? That they're remembered only as ancient Mataram, an anonymous footnote? We can't know, but the question itself reveals something about us, about what we value, about what we consider success. Is it enough to create something beautiful that outlasts you, even if you're forgotten? Or is the memory the credit, the recognition essential? Mataram created beauty without recognition. The temples stand. The builders don't. Is that success? Or is that tragedy? Different people will answer differently, but the question remains, as it will for every civilization, including ours. Pause 3 seconds. Before the volcanoes erupted, there were kings. Before the kings, there was rice. And after the kingdoms fell, after the names were forgotten, after the culture transformed, the temples remained, silent witnesses to power that was, beauty that survived, memory that died, Java's forgotten power, remembered only in stone.